Welcome to this webinar. My name is Leif. I'm from Social Selling Company, but first I would like to welcome Matthias to kickstart this event. So welcome, Matthias.
Thank you very much, Leif, and to all of you, much welcome to this second partner event this year from Granuldisk. We are here at the showroom in Malmö, and today we will talk about a very actual topic about social selling and hopefully giving you some good inspirations and as well as some insights about this topic. And that's why it's so nice to see that we have so many joining from all over the world on this very interesting topic. Before we get started, I will just give a very short update and reconnect to last meeting we had, where we talked about our strategy that we are now starting to execute. So our strategy is basically that we as Granuldisk aim to grow 3 times by 2025. And doing that, we have 3 major enablers. One is that enhancing our partnership and our channel to markets. We get closer to the customer together with you as partners. Second enabler is to take ownership of the complete life cycle of our installations. So we're making sure that we are taking care of the service business, the after sales, as well as also making sure that every installation is a reference and we have a happy customer when it's time to exchange for the next machine. And we like to speed up our technology development. So we have a modern platform, we have a bigger portfolio of things, we have a very good platform to sell. And these enablers will help us to grow in the 3 dimension of geographical. So the geographical growth in more areas and markets, segment-wise, what are our customers that we want to reach and making sure we focus on those ones, as well as our offering, our portfolio getting bigger. That means that we have more things to sell and can grow our business. But of course, we like to do this together with you as partners. So we like to grow by you growing as well. So this is all for us a partnership in this execution of the strategy. So we are now 5 months into the year, and we can see actually quite a good development from our view, which is very happy and gives us confidence in this strategy. So we are ahead in sales, both of over last year, but also over budget. So that is very nice to see. And we can see that our family of Granuldisk partners is growing. So we are now 49 partners with signed agreements and business plan in 23 countries. So that's also very nice to see that our family is getting bigger and things are moving in the right direction. To mention a few things that is happening right now from us, and just very shortly, we have the Power Granules Bio that we talked a lot about, which is now released and available. We had some initial issue with availability, but that is now under control, and we are now releasing in Sweden for all machines that leaving the factory. And on request to all other markets. So if you have a request for a machine with biogranules, let us know and we can deliver it. Second thing is our Academy Online, which released just a couple of weeks ago. So now we have on our website the possibility to book our trainings online, and it's all our trainings, both technical training, sales training, product training, as well as operator training. And that gives us with the same good content and even updated content, but much more efficient way to attend those trainings. Of course, we can still do them physical, but this is a very good opportunity, especially for people abroad. Another long awaiting for feature is the foldable hatch on the Smart and the Smart Plus that we are now field testing and will be released in July for Smart Plus. So now you can fold the hatch and by that getting much more access into the machine for daily cleaning and so on. We will have our service platform that is released, meaning we have a QR code on every machine that you can access with a mobile device. And doing that, it will be easier to get access to the technical documentation, troubleshooting guides, but also videos for the operators how to use the machine. So this is something that we will use more and more, of course, this type of service platform tools. And we have also an IoT box on request. So we see quite some customers on request for an IoT connection of our machine. So we have that now on request basis. So good for you to know. So basically, we can connect our machines to a box that then makes them available for any kitchen software you have. So we can connect in the kitchen if there is a kitchen software, but it also gives us the possibility to bring data to a cloud for analyze. And this is something that will, of course, will continue to build on, and also giving the possibility in the future for you as partners to get access and doing remote things and monitoring of our machines. So quite a lot of things is ongoing at the moment and much more to come. So this is just the present status of things that are happening right now. Going over to today's topic, a bit more about the digital things. So we are starting and doing and experimenting quite a lot with using digital tools in our sales. So one thing I like to mention is the digital sales event that we have tested 2 times now, one in Romania with Line Group and one in Hungary with Coninvest, where we basically together do an event for the end customer. So we connect from here, we can show a live wash from our showroom, giving some presentations. But the partner can also, in their own language, present the material to their customers and have a discussion and offering. So this is something that we see quite possible and quite useful in the future to reach and working together. We're doing quite a lot of activities on LinkedIn, and we have experimenting with sponsored campaigns where you define a target group, and we're making sure that we end up in their flow. But here it's about learning and experimenting, so that's why it will be very interesting to hear about Leif and hear his insights on this topic and how to do that in the right way. We have also some digital sales tools present. We're using quite a lot for our presentation, to share material, follow-up presentations. And that is also something that we will explore together with you as partners. How can we make you easier accessing all the material that we have for this? So a lot of testing, learning in this area, it is quite important. So now it will be very nice to hear an expert talking about this topic. So happy to see you, Leif Karlsson, which is a social selling expert in the social selling company. So over to you, Leif.
Thank you. I'll just steal the screen from you, Matthias. I hope it's okay.
Absolutely.
Thank you. All right. Well, welcome again. My name is Leif Karlsson. I have some slides for my presentation that I will share in a moment. My recommendation is, of course, the more that you participate by actually asking questions, the more you will benefit from this webinar. The way we do it is that I will do my best to end the agenda before 11, so that if you have any other meetings, you will be able to attend that. If there's a lot of questions, we will continue to answer questions after 11 o'clock. So feel free to ask any questions. The slides I'm going to show you can be provided on request. If you actually, I'll send them to Johan after the meeting. So if you would like to have a copy of the PDFs, feel free to contact Johan, then he'll share them with you. So let's go over to this one so you can see my slide set here. Just like this, yeah. All right. As said again, my name is Leif Karlsson. I am from a company called Social Selling Company. We are a consulting and training company here in Denmark. And what we do is that we help companies and people like you to create valuable relationships that can increase your revenue. Our core idea is definitely to use a platform, for instance, like LinkedIn, in order to create new relationships with business customers that you can then convert into business. That's the idea of this. Our own slogan is actually turning connections into business. And when we started the company about 7 years ago, this one was my important, but you could say my major sales tool when it comes to creating business, because we didn't have any followers, we didn't have any website, we didn't basically have anything. Today, we're getting all our business via LinkedIn and our website. So you can definitely change from traditional sales into more digital sales methods, just like social selling, and that's what we're going to talk about today. So the idea is basically, how can we take you could say your network, your individual network, regardless whether you have 200 connections or 2,000 connections, and create stronger relationships with and stronger connections with our customers. We do this on, of course, social media platforms like LinkedIn. You can also use this for Twitter or Facebook if you're in the German-speaking region, for instance, the platform called Sing. So the idea is, of course, to create a stronger relation and convert it into business. The purpose of today is very much that I would like to give you a lot of inspiration. I would really encourage you to write down things you should try to test or pursue. The other thing is, of course, to share specific knowledge. I'm also here to challenge you a little bit in regards to how you're using LinkedIn and the social selling method. And then I hope we can provide you with some new energy when it comes to using digital selling in your sales effort. The agenda for today is as follows. What I would like to talk about is why should you even consider spending time on social selling. I'm going to talk about the definition on it. How do you do it? What kind of content types can you post on your profile? I have some elements on what do's and don'ts. And then, of course, I would like to share what will you benefit if you do like this, and then we'll wrap up just before 11 o'clock. So this is the agenda, and as I say again, feel free to ask any questions. I'll try to do my best to answer these questions. But let's start with the why. And by that, I mean, why should we even spend time and resources on this on LinkedIn? Well, the major issue is, of course, that the customers is changing the way that they're running their buying journey, the buying process. And this is you could say, one of the most important elements of today's presentation is that the reason why we need to be working on these things is simply because the average customer today takes about 60% of the buying journey using platforms like Google, Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, and other platforms. So therefore, it's very important for us to be where the customer is in a digital way. I still see a lot of companies where they basically still continue to use the phone as their major way of getting in touch with customers, but it is getting tougher to get through via the phone. This is not because you're poor at calling out customers and doing cold calling. The reason why that is because the customers would like to do the initial part of the buying process by themselves. So that's one of the reasons why we have to be in the digital space when it comes to these things. The other thing has to do with how the decision maker is changing their way of working with these things. It's not like I want to go through all these in details, but I have back here. And I would like to mention two things that are particularly interesting in this slide. More than 90% of decision makers are actually starting their buying journey via online searches. So they can start on Google, they can start on LinkedIn, they can search for specific things. The other part is 75% actually use social media to learn about vendors and suppliers. So even though you're part of a family when it comes to Granuldisk, I still think it's very important that your network on LinkedIn or other platform actually know what it is that you do, what kind of value you provide, what are the services that your company can help on. Because when the customer, if I'm just going back to this slide here, when the customer is starting to define their need and gather information, it's so important that you're top of mind for these ones. So we need to reflect on this, that the fact that the decision maker has already gone digital in their way of working. We as a sales team and salespeople also need to do digital efforts when it comes to this. I always show this drawing here, of course, to make a little bit of fun of it. But my point is here, it doesn't help that we show up at a modern marketplace and are not able to use some of the tools that, first of all, competitors are using, but more important, customers are using these digital things. We need to be digitalizing our sales process. The third element that I think is important is that the typical buyer nowadays really would like to have information. They've always wanted that, but in a world where the pace is higher, the decisions need to be taken fast, but they need to be right, they need to be wise. Then they need information in order to take wise decisions. So this is numbers from a a analysis that LinkedIn did some years ago, where they said, were asking, what are the factors, the key factors, before you actually would like to talk to a supplier? And these are the most important parts from this survey. I know that this number gives more than 100%, and that's correct. It shall give more than 100%, because this was just the four most important things for people when they actually answered this survey. So first, you need to understand the customer's business model. It's not about the products that you sell. It's not about you initially. You need to understand the business model. You need to be really good at what you do. You need to be an expert. You need to provide valuable information, resources, education, and tools. And then you need to know the customer's product portfolio. What are they selling? What are their business model? And I always say that if we stack these four elements into two bits, that the top and the bottom part has to do with understanding the customer, and the two middle part here has to do with you being an expert and being really good at providing information for the customer, so that they can actually make wise decisions. And my point in regards to this slide is that make sure that it's you who give the customers this information. The more that you provide it, the more you'll be top of mind, the more you will be seen as a trusted advisor. Number 4 has to do with people being annoyed over ads on digital platforms. It's never been higher. More people. There's actually companies here in Denmark who are testing on things when it comes to how people react to ads, and they are measuring how easy it is to actually attract attention from ads, and how people are reacting to ads. And this survey actually shows that it's getting harder and harder to get attention via classic ads or digital ads, and the annoyance in regards to ad is increasing. So therefore, we really need to be careful on what we're doing when it comes to advertising. Just to give you some numbers to add to this discussion here, this is a company, Audience Project, who last year made this survey where they were checking things in regards to this about people's annoyance on ads. And you can see here a lot of people actually are annoyed over ads on websites. This is about ads in videos. If you're in Denmark, about 8 out of 10 people are actually annoyed over ads in videos. And more people are actually using ad blockers. So my point is here that the digital arms race is actually on. And when we're talking about social selling, then the solution is not to turn up the volume. One of the most important things you need to take away from today is actually that I really would encourage you not to do direct sales on LinkedIn. People do not like it. You have to have in mind, people are not on LinkedIn in order directly to be sold to. They are on LinkedIn for other reasons. They want to gather information, they want to share knowledge, they want to be kept up on their network, they want to gather information in regards to the market that they're a part of. You can use it for keeping an eye on competitors, meeting preparation and stuff like that. So you really need to make sure that if you just turn up the volume and become more aggressive when it comes to this part, my point would be that you're going to have a very hard time. Also, to be very practical and also to show you this, actually last year, LinkedIn started to increase the usage of artificial intelligence, but also made it more easy for people to report spam, because after the lockdown started in March, April, and so on in various countries, the number of people complaining or people selling directly on LinkedIn increased dramatically. So what they actually did, I'm just going to switch over here so you can see LinkedIn, and I'll just show this on a test on this one. So what they actually did were that it made it much easier for people to report posts on LinkedIn in order to increase the quality of people's newsfeed. And this is where, apart from hateful speech and stuff like that, now I'm talking about actually that people are seeing this as spam. So this is another reason why you should not do it. That people are much more into actually reporting sales posts on LinkedIn. And a particular reason why you should not do it is actually if you get 5 spam reports on your post on LinkedIn within a short period of time, the post will actually be removed if you do this over and over again, you would typically have 30 days where you cannot post or interact on LinkedIn. And if you continue to do it, you will lose your right to actually access LinkedIn. So therefore, my advice is definitely do not turn up the volume when it comes to this. The solution is not to be more aggressive when it comes to this. Fifth and last element that I would like to talk about when it comes to the reason why you should be spending more time on LinkedIn and on social selling is that the situation around COVID-19, of course, makes it more hard to get meetings with customers. And this is again where we can use the social selling method more to get actually back in the buying journey. If you remember the part with 60%, that we can actually use this. And the other thing is, of course, if we're using it the right way, we can actually use LinkedIn and social selling to get video meetings at least with people so that we stay in touch with people. That was the 5 reasons why you should be interested in using social selling and LinkedIn. Let me just check if there's any questions or anything. No, not so far. As I said, feel free to ask any questions. Also, if you disagree with me, feel free to challenge me on these things. That's, of course, completely okay. All right, let's continue here. Let's talk about what is social selling and why should you actually spend time on it. I'm sorry, how do you do it? First, let me start with the definitions on what social selling and LinkedIn is. And the reason why I do this is because a lot of people say, yeah, but I've been on LinkedIn for 10 years live, so I must be really cool at social selling. That doesn't have to be the case because LinkedIn is basically the rail track. This is the platform. This is the technology. Remember, it's a professional social media. It very much is about networking and sharing knowledge. It was founded in 2003. In 2016, Microsoft acquired LinkedIn for a lot of $1 billion. There's more than 756 million users worldwide, and there still increases more than 50 million companies on LinkedIn. Social selling is the train that runs on the LinkedIn train network. This is where you should see this as a method and a mindset. You are running the train, your train, you need to have it moving. If you're not, your social selling train is not moving, you're not benefiting from it. You need to be pushing speed on this one. You also need to decide who should be on this train. And this is a typical error that many salespeople are doing when it comes to LinkedIn and social selling. That is that they just connect with anyone, basically from a perspective that is around, you never know where your new customer is coming from. But this is the wrong thing to do because the algorithm doesn't favor this. The algorithm actually favors that you have connections where people interact with your content. If you have a lot of people, but they don't interact with it, you will never have your message spread into a very large audience. So we need to make sure that the people we have on board our train is actually relevant people. The definition, the specific definition when it comes to social selling, that it's a method to develop personal or professional relations as part of the sales process. You can divide it into 3 major elements. The first thing is that they need to know you, they need to like you, and they need to trust you. These are the 3 major parts when it comes to social selling. The methodology in itself has 5 elements that we work with on a continuous basis when it comes to this. And this is where I will go through all 5 elements now. First of all, you need to be visible if you want to use this part of the social selling method. That means we need to post on a regular basis. We need to comment, like, share things on LinkedIn. If you're not visible, then you cannot use this part of being successful with social selling. You also need to be likable on LinkedIn, and by that I mean 2 elements. The first thing actually has to do with the way that the algorithm works, and that has to do with the fact that if you the algorithm favors that we have engagement on our post, and that means that we need to not ask for clicks because that would be click hunting. We need to make good content, relevant content, engaging content, and if we do that, people would like it, they will comment on it, they'll maybe share it, they'll click on links, on pictures, images, PDFs, stuff like that. You need to be likable on LinkedIn. People, if you're likable, and that's the other part of it, then they will also start to recommend you. So therefore, it's very important that you're likable on LinkedIn. Third element has to do with building trust. I'm sure that you're really, really good at what you do, but does your network on LinkedIn know what you do? And this is a typical issue, that you haven't educated your network to understand what it is that you actually are working on, what value you provide, what are the typical customers. And the way we build trust on LinkedIn is actually by helping your network, answering questions, providing inspiration, providing knowledge, sharing experiences on different kind of things. And by doing that, and it takes some time to do that, of course, then you will build up trust in your network. You can even experience that people who never bought from you will start to be seeing you as a trustworthy person and start to recommend you. So building trust is a very important part of it. In practical terms, this means that you, on a daily basis, should be searching your newsfeed for places where questions you can answer, post that where you can actually add with your valuable information or contributions to this one. The fourth element in the method is about establishing relations. It's so important that, as I said before, you don't connect with all people on LinkedIn. You need to be more critical. I'll get back to that in more details later on, but you need to be focusing on establishing relations with the right buyers, the right decision makers, the right influencers. So by actually make sure that you, on a more strategic level and a tactical level, drive your business by searching for specific customers, specific decision makers, this is the way to become successful with social selling. Just by having a huge network, I see some people have 20,000, 30,000 connections. This does not help you in being successful with social selling. It's about quality, not quantity. And then the fifth and last element has to do with creating the sales on LinkedIn. Sorry, not on LinkedIn. Creating the sales, because you don't do the sales on LinkedIn. It's very rare that people actually will get the order for the business on LinkedIn. You might get you could say a mail or a message where people are asking, could we meet? I would like to hear more. They can start the dialogue there, but of course, the real discussion in regards to creating sales would be done via meetings, via video meetings, stuff like that. It can be conferences, stuff like that. But you're not creating the sales directly on LinkedIn. It will be a result of this. So these are the 5 steps when it comes to social selling. Of course, this is an ongoing process. You should see this as an ecosystem where you continually need to do this. You continually need to be visible. You need to be likable. You need to build trust. You need to find new connections. So this is an ongoing method. How do we do it then specifically when it comes to the social selling method? Well, first of all, I think it's very important to see social selling just like any other kind of sales initiative, also including classic sales. That means we need to think social selling as a part of your sales funnel. Whether we use social selling or we use classic sales has to do with whether where in the sales, in the buying process that the customer. So that depends whether we're using social selling or we're using classic sales, because all sales is about 3 things. It's about effort, it's about the effect it will give, and it's about results. If you're using your phone to do cold calling, the effort is, of course, cold calling. The effect is that you get a lot of no, and a few yes. I would like to talk to you. The result is not an order. The result is the opportunity to move on to a new dialogue that can lead to an offer, that can lead to an order, hopefully. When we're using the social selling method, it's the same thing. We're using LinkedIn as a platform. The effort could be that you post or share some knowledge and inspiration. The effect is that you get visibility, likes, impressions, and shares, comments, stuff like that. The result is that hopefully you will get some kind of a buying signals via comments or stuff like that from a few persons that allows you to build further on this one. So it's about converting things. We convert on the phone calls, we convert on the things that we do on LinkedIn. So my point is just here, if you're just going to sit and look at your LinkedIn profile, and sit and browse through and hope that you can actually get orders by using the newsfeed. It's going to take a long time before you're going to find even just one order. That's simply not the way LinkedIn is working. So you need to have this in mind, that if you do zero social selling effort, you're not going to get any results. You need to be active here in order to do it. There's two ways where you typically can work with social selling. You could say two tactics when it comes to this. The first one is basically using a push tactic, meaning we need to push customers. The second one is a pull tactic, where we want to attract people to our profile and the things, that the knowledge that we share there. Let me start by talking a little bit about the first element. This is about the push part. This is where you really need to work on defining who is your ideal customer type. Too many salespeople just start spraying posts on LinkedIn, typically with products and stuff like that. That's not the strategic or the tactical way of working with social selling. You need to define who is your customers. This is where when we use this term ICT, ideal customer type, that has to do with finding out who would be a typical good customer type for you. Has it to do with the size of the company, the industry, who is the decision types, or who are the users and stuff like that? Because you have to have in mind, social selling is about connecting with a person and starting to trying to do things. I mean, you want to give them the information that they hopefully will use in order to move on in their buying journey. So we need to identify the people. In this case, you can see these avatars. This is just not good enough. We need to define them first as avatars, or you could say personas, buying personas. And then secondly, we start to find out who are they specifically, these people in the in the companies that we would like to sell to. Another good thing to do is actually, and this is a classic thing when it comes to sale, is that you start to map the buying center of your ICTs. And by that I mean, who's the decision maker, who actually signs the order, who can make the decision, who has an influence on it, who is the user, is there some kind of a guide who can help you to this. So it's a really good thing to map the buying center. You can do that by using, of course, LinkedIn, either the free version of LinkedIn, or you can use the Sales Navigator edition for this one. I will go back in a moment to actually Sales Navigator and show you a short search, just to give you an idea on what I'm talking about here. So when we use tactics number one, this is about pushing people. This is, of course, where we want to search for a person and connect with this person. This is where we have personal dialogues via the message function on LinkedIn. This is the key core point in tactics number one. Let me just switch over here to LinkedIn and actually go to the Sales Navigator version of LinkedIn. Remember, this version is a paid version, and also let me just make this disclaimer that I'm not getting paid by LinkedIn anything at all, and I don't want money for them, because we want to be objective in our way of presenting this. But the reason why I'm just going to spend a couple of minutes in this one is to show you that this can actually be a really cool sales tool as part of your social selling initiative, because the search ability is much better when it comes to using this for sales than the free version of it. So for instance, let's just use an example here. If I want to sell to Granuldisk, then I could search initially for the company. I'll do this here. When I see the company here, the company site on Sales Navigator, I get immediately some information when it comes to the how many employees are there, how many decision makers are there here. So just by searching for the company and actually clicking here, I can see that the decision makers, the people who are actually working within the company, I don't even need to know their names initially. Now I know these names of the people. So in this case, let's say here that Johan could be a potential customer for me because he's a CMO. We would typically talk to people that are working within marketing. So in this case, if I've then identified Johan as a potential target, I would save him to a specific list. Is he a suspect, meaning a customer I have never talked to before? Is he a prospect that I'm starting to work on? Is he a current customer? Is it a person in my network? is you can define these lists by yourself. And the idea here is, I'll just put Johan on current as a current customer. But by doing this now, I could also say, yeah, but I probably also better put on Matthias. I would like to keep an eye on what Matthias is doing. Maybe I should also check Mikael as the CEO. So now I've defined these three persons. The smart thing about Sales Navigator is now, unlike the free version of LinkedIn, my newsfeed is really, a mess with a lot of different kind of posts. My Sales Navigator newsfeed, if I go out here in the newsfeed, is only showing information on people I have defined as leads or potential customers or current customers. So in this case, with Johan, Matthias, and Mikael, if they write a post on LinkedIn, I will see it here immediately, of course, if I'm on right now on Sales Navigator. But I don't need to search for them. I will be provided information. I can even see if a person is posting. I can actually click on view and then see what is it this person is posting about, and then decide whether I want to interact with it. So in this way, when it comes to tactics number one, Sales Navigator is a very efficient way of searching for leads and monitoring these leads. You can also, in a very easy way, save search. For instance, let's say that I want to search for marketing managers. Then you have a lot of filters you can put on these ones here: country, seniority, function, company size. You can see here, for instance, I can say how many headcounts I would like to have, 50 to up to, let's say, 1,000 in employees. Those are my main targets. So in this case, the Sales Navigator will narrow this one down. Of course, 4 million results is probably still too high a number, so I need to narrow it more down. But you can search by a lot of things here. You can see past and lead account activity, geography, relationship, company, industry, and so on. So it's a really powerful tool that I would encourage you to look into. You actually can get a 30-day free trial version of the Sales Navigator. Try it out. Do it at a time where you actually have the sufficient time to work with these things, but it can be a really cool way of using tactics number one in the social selling method. Again, I'll remind you that feel free to ask questions. I'll be happy to answer these. Second part of doing social selling is the pull tactics. This is where we, of course, want to attract people's attention, and this is where we do posts, you could say, that are visible for everyone. This is where you should see your profile being like a broadcasting tower, regardless, again, whether you have 2,000 or 200 connections. If you make sure that you actually post on LinkedIn, then you will start to broadcast to your network. So you should see yourself as a radio DJ. You should actually share knowledge and information on this one. And we do this, of course, via using posts. It can be videos, it can be PDFs, it can be a lot of elements that we post here on your profile. It can also be comments that we use for this one. And my point is always here, if we inspire other people via our post, you will attract new listeners to your network. Every day when I post something that people find interesting, they will start to send the invitation. And it's typically people that are interested in this one. It's not just anyone. It's typically actually my ICTs, my ideal customer types. So I would really encourage you to start using this method also, because my point is basically, I'll just go back to this slide, is of course you can choose just to use tactics number one and push people going for that. My point is just the modern salesperson who really would like to make sure that they cover both areas will do, of course, both the push part and the pull part, because push means speed, meaning being very accurate on who you're attacking. Pull means attracting people and showing your expertise, showing what it is that you can create in regards to value. So I would definitely recommend that you use both tactics when it comes to using social selling. So what can you post if you're using the tactics number two? before telling you that, I think it's very important that you actually know that it's going to be a hard time for you to post, meaning it's a hard time to get people's attention, because Facebook did this survey a couple of years ago where they actually found out that the modern social media person or social media user, they're actually scrolling about 90 meters of content every day. That's the equivalent to the height of the Statue of Liberty. So no one is just sitting and scrolling slowly. We're scrolling pretty rapidly, and this is just where you really need to understand that if you're not doing something that are interesting, and my point is just, if you're just going to post pictures of your products and saying, hey, buy from me, I want to sell you this, these posts will never be popular. When you share knowledge and information, that's going to be different things. So therefore, it's very important that you understand what you're doing on LinkedIn. If you're just going to focus on actually talking about the product and going for a transaction, and a transaction in this way is, of course, it could be meeting, it can be the customer calling you. You will be perceived as a pushy salesperson. Whereas you see this as sharing knowledge, and you want to create new relationships with customers, this is where it's network and inspiration. This is the core way of getting success on LinkedIn. When we're using tactics number two, is about pulling people to you. There's a lot of different kind of content types we can use on LinkedIn, and I would like to go through this with you so you get some inspiration on what you can post when it comes to types on LinkedIn. We have the traditional text post. This is, of course, a very easy way because it doesn't take more than you writing a text. The issue is, of course, if you remember this with the 90 meters people are scrolling, is that it very often can be drowning in the feed because there's no visual stop effect on this one. And this is where the next one, where you use text plus an image, is far better in my point of view. So, and the more you can actually use an image, taking where you use real images and not just some stock photos, the better a post will typically perform. We have also a version of this function where it's called multi-upload. This is where we can actually upload several images. We will typically use these as a way of doing storytelling, where it can be from a seminar, from a webinar, from a conference. It can be where you're showing some elements on how people are using your products. So this way it's very efficient. And the things that we want to create by using this is basically to tease people's curiosity. Let me just show you an example on how this can be done, so you can see this in a practical way. Let me just visit this company here that I know are using this kind of things because we're helping them with it. So when, for instance, this is like a social gathering they have for their employees, then this is what we call multi-upload, that we can actually upload several images and then people can basically click through this one. This is, of course, to show that it's a cool place to work. But we can also use it for a professional thing. And the thing I'll just show you here as an example is that if, for instance, in this case, there's this wireless scanning system, and this is a way, again, of showing it without selling it directly, because they're just telling about how wireless scanning is also being used to modern diagnostic purposes. So this is multi-upload, where we actually have several images. And from a algorithm point of view, this is a cool way of actually getting more engagement because people, of course, click through more images. So this is a really cool way of using it for that purpose. Then we have animated GIFs, and actually maybe I should go back and show you this again because it's easy to show you it here. The thing where you saw this element up here, where this person here, this is a GIF, animated GIF, or GIFs, and we can of course use it as part of multi-upload. Another way of using it, let me show you it from my colleague Eva, how she used it. If you have a model or something where you want to show, let's say, some kind of attract visual elements, you can use a GIF for that one. And for instance, if you see this post, let me just find it here for you. This one here, this is also an animated GIF where you can see this lighthouse here. It's looking like it's blinking. Another way of using a animated GIF would be, let me just find another example for you, and we can use it for, see here, this one. This is also an animated GIF, and you can produce these in PowerPoint or via different kind of services on LinkedIn. And while we're here, let me also show you the next content type is called PDF, and this is where we can upload a PDF, and then people can actually click and browse through this one in a very easy way. So we allow people to gain information or access information without having to download this one. So it's a very easy and a very popular way of sharing knowledge on LinkedIn. Again, like with multi-upload, this is, of course, from an algorithm point of view, a very good thing because people click more on the content than other types of content. Yeah, let me see here if there's the other thing, kind of content you can use is articles. And let me show you this also on Eva's profile, where posts are these up to 1,300 characters are 99% of what you see on a post, on LinkedIn are just normal posts up to 1,300 characters, whereas articles can be up to 120,000 characters. You should, of course, not write so much, but this is more like making a blog post. You can do a lot more on formatting when it comes to the text. You can do headlines, you can do number list, point list, stuff like that. You can embed images, you can embed videos, you can do a lot to increase the way people read about things. Articles typically get less views, but they're more, they get, from a percent point of view, they get more engagement relative to the number of impressions. But this is a very efficient way. And actually, as of yesterday, you can also use this on company pages now. You can actually publish a article directly on the company page. Actually, this is a article I published on our company page just as of last night. So now we can publish articles directly on a company page. You also have the opportunity of creating polls on LinkedIn, meaning you can ask a question. You can then put up to 4 different kind of answers. There should be, of course, minimum 2, because otherwise it's not a poll. And then you can set up a duration for 1 day, 3 days, 1 week, or 2 weeks. I would normally recommend that you set it for 1 week. But this is a very easy way to ask a question and get feedback from your network. You can also set up events that could, for instance, be webinars, conferences, stuff like that. You can do that again directly on your own page, and you can do it on your company page for this one. It's again a very easy way to get more traction on events. Irina, I'll get back to you in a second on your question. 2 last elements I would talk about when it comes to content you can use on LinkedIn is, of course, video, which is definitely something you should consider. However, I would say a lot of people ask me, yeah, but like video, isn't that the new black on LinkedIn? And it's not the new black, because video in general is actually not performing very well on LinkedIn, to be honest. When we see the companies that we help, and also on our own profile, video, at least video should be executed extremely well in order to be a success. You need to be to the point immediately. You need to upload it as what is called a native video, so people can actually, it can autoplay. And then you need to have probably subtext in order to, subtitles in order to have people's attention, because more than 80% is actually being on LinkedIn without having their sound enabled on their mobile phone or desktop version. So we need to be really on spot with the message and immediately start to give value. If we don't catch people within the first 1 or 2 seconds, it's gone. Then people start to scrolling. But having said that, if you're doing a good work with a video, the thing is here, of course, that you can tell a lot in a video. Let's say of 1 minute length. We can illustrate things behind us. We can write things. We can in a different way communicate. So video can be really efficient when it comes to that. The last content type I will talk about before getting back to the question is stories on LinkedIn, which is still a pretty new thing for many people. Stories is a bit like Instagram and Snapchat and Facebook, where we have these very short elements, typically 20 seconds elements. If you want to record a minute's video on Stories, of course you need to have 3 segments. The part that is the same as Stories on the other platform is that it's removed after 24 hours. It's simply deleted from people's feed. You can still see the stories you made. The issue with Stories is that you have to have in mind that only about half of the total number of LinkedIn users are on LinkedIn on a monthly basis. And depending, of course, on the country period, but just saying on a rough number, about 10% is active on LinkedIn on a daily basis. So that means if you're spending a lot of time on creating stories on LinkedIn, you're probably wasting your time because you're not going to get a lot of views, because many people don't know that there are stories. And the other part is that very little number is on a daily basis. So that means that my point is, if I'm going to starting making some kind of video, I would spend time on making a real video. The number of views you're going to get on stories is going to be extremely low. So you should always consider whether it's worth the work creating stories. All right, let's take some questions here. Let's see here. Irina is asking, if talking about volume, what should be seen at podium frequency for posts as not to get spam? Very good question, Irina. You could say, and of course I'm trying to make a joke out of it, you can basically make one post a year that's going to be seen as spam. So, but of course, to answer your question, my recommendation would be that if you post once or twice every week, you will, and it's relevant, it's interesting, it's made in a good way, then it will never be spam. If you start to post, and let me also come with the other thing I would recommend is never post more than once a day if you have a high volume, because if you post more than once a day, then the last post will always be the one who's running with the attention. So there's no reason for posting 2, 3, 4, 5 times a day because the total result is going to be poor. The other thing you will experience if you start to post so much, it's going to be considered spam. So once or twice a week with relevant things, and that can be on a personal profile or it can be on a company page. That would be my ideal number of posts. Hedda is asking, would you say that it's more efficient to post from a personal LinkedIn profile rather than a business company page? The answer for that question, Hedda, is yes. It's more efficient, but it's not either or. It's both. You should do both. For instance, in our company, Eva and I have the company. We have our own profiles, but we also have our company profile. We basically use all 3 channels to post from. But what we do is, let's say that I today make a post, then I would never post immediately on the company page. Eva would not do the same post. We would always make sure that, for instance, I post today, then in a month, Eva will post, and in 2 months from now, we will post on the company page. Of course, this is only relevant when it's not, you could say, time critical post. If we have a webinar next week, we need, of course, to be pushing it quicker when it comes to that. So you should post from both from both a personal profile and a company post. Yeah, I'll get back to your questions, but I will just make sure that we get through the things that we have on the agenda before we finish with the time. So I just have some quick do's and don'ts that I would share with you. And this is, of course, to make sure that you actually don't try to, you could say, that you at least try to avoid some bumps on the road when it comes to LinkedIn. I hope you got the message that I said, don't sell on LinkedIn. People really get annoyed if you start to sell. And trust me, the fun thing is, even when I share this information that people are annoyed over ads, I will guarantee that if I follow you, I'll start to see sales posts from you. But it's not going to work. You should share knowledge and inspiration instead. Don't do direct sales. The customer are much more interested in their own problems than in your products. Don't accept all the invitations that you're receiving. You should be critical. Make sure that you check these for relevance. Is it a fake profile? What's the intention behind? Does it make sense to connect with this person? Is the person active on LinkedIn? what number of connections do they have. So be critical about these things. And also make sure that you don't send what I call empty invitation. This is when we were doing searches. Always make sure that you send invitation, because if you don't send an in-person invitation text, this is like fishing without a bait. You need to write an invitation text, especially when we work on it from a sales point of view. I receive dozens of invitations every week, also from salespeople. And if there's no text, I'll just ignore it. I don't have the time to investigate whether this person is relevant or not, unless it's very clear that they have a title that makes it relevant for me. Other than that, I would ignore it. So always remember to put an invitation on this one, because this would be fishing with bait. And last do's and don'ts that I would talk about is, if you're just going to try to play LinkedIn, the LinkedIn Wheel of Fortune, meaning that you're only going to be in LinkedIn once a month or twice a month, you're never going to be successful with this. If you're working with sales, for instance, using the phone, and you use this 52 weeks a year, you know that this is the reason why it works. If you want to be successful with social selling, you need to do it every week, excluding holidays, of course. And one of the best ways to get a better, you could say, habit when it comes to LinkedIn, start drinking coffee with your LinkedIn profile every morning to do these things. What are the benefits if you're starting to use these things? Well, first of all, I think the most important benefit you will get from this is that it's the best way to start new dialogues. It's fantastic as a tool to start dialogues with potential new customers. You will gain increased visibility in a very high degree. Eva and I, with our, we're two people, we have a company page, we get about 100,000 impressions every month at this cost. We don't buy advertising, just by pushing out good information and inspiration. It also allows you to display and show your expertise in a very efficient way. It can increase your sales productivity, because social selling can be done at various times, whereas if I call people, they need to answer the phone. And last but not least, it's a very efficient way to get back in the initial part of the buying process. And then as a bonus, what if the customers actually started calling you? This would be the final goal for using social selling. All right, I'll wrap up before Matthias will get a final word, and I will get back to all the questions. Keep on asking questions. I always wrap up by asking, I wonder if this actually works, whether it's just going to be cheap talk. It actually works if you're going to do something about it. If you work on this, and it's going to take some time, but if you work on this, it will lift your sales to a new level. You will start to get access to new customers, new potential customers. So work on it, then you'll succeed on this one. Feel free to connect with Eva and I, and you can also test the function about writing a small text, invitation text. And then I will say thank you for you listening to this one initially. Before answering the question, I'll just go back and invite here Matthias on the stage before answering questions from you.
Thank you very much, Leif. I think it was, to me, at least, very inspirational, and a lot of new learning and insights that we will definitely, from our side, work on and take on and continue to work with and improving this. So at least you convinced me very well. And so very nice presentation. And I must say I like your pictures as well. Extremely clear and crisp. So
Thank you. Thank you.
Impressive to see. And for all of you, Leif will stay on, so we will have time for some more chat and questions for those that can and have the time for that. We will obviously share all the material and the contact to Leif and so on after the meeting. Just to wrap it up from our side, hope you enjoyed it. We will have the next partner event in September 21. We will send the invitation shortly after this meeting. And so save that date. We will have some very interesting news at that point in time. So please make sure to join that one. And of course, as always, feedback and comments and questions, feel free to contact us at any time, and we will get back to you. So by that, from all of us, we're wishing you a wonderful summer and relaxing summer, and hopefully a very busy autumn with a lot of new sales and a lot of new learnings when it comes to social selling. So thank you all. Thanks for joining. And now back to Leif that can take on some of the last questions.
All right. Thank you, Matthias. All right. More questions from you. Ashish, I hope I pronounced it correctly. Does resharing company page from a personal profile will be more helpful or negative? That's a really, really good question. Actually, what I would recommend you doing is stop sharing. Sharing does not work. So when you see a post on your profile from the company page, let me just go over here and go. Let's say that we'll just say, let's say this was a post that we did on our company page, or it was Eva who actually did it. So I should not, let me emphasize, not share it, because the problem with sharing is that you basically you remove attention from the primary post, which is this one, and then you start to try to start up this post on your own profile. So what you should do is, if you want to help spreading this information to your network, you should just, and it's just in a positive way, click on like, because clicking on like also redistributes this to your network, but in a far more effective way than actually sharing. And I know this is also have to do with using the word. We would like you to share this to your network. And if for anyone who is sitting in the marketing and typically make these mails saying, hey, we just posted this one, we would be happy if you share it with your network. Don't click the share button, click on like. This will help you. It will improve the distribution. And actually, if you don't trust me, just check the numbers on you. Go to the statistics part of your profile, look on the post you reshared, and see how few shares, how few likes the shared post get from your network. It's very rarely that it gets a lot of likes. So if you want to spread a post, Ashish, you should just click on like. What you could do instead, let's use this as an example, the one that you see here on my screen right now. If this was an important post for us, I would make my own version of it and then post it directly on my profile here instead. So if you're in a rush, click like. If you want to make it even better, make your own version of this post. I hope that answered the question, as is. Irina is asking here, what would be the number of characters for an article? Also a very good question. I think it's important, Irina, that let me just show you it here. When we do the normal posts here, this is where it can be, right now it's probably going to be increased, but right now it can be up to 1,300 characters. Remember to put in 3 hashtags, only industry terms. Don't use hashtag Granuldisk because first of all, very few follows this hashtag. What we want them to follow is actually the company page. So use generic. It can be environment, whatever. Use industry terms here for that one. So up to 1,300 characters here. When it comes to articles, and I'll just close down for this one here. When it comes to writing articles, my suggestion is that you write minimum, I'll just write it here so you can see it here, minimum 300 words up to 700, 800, 900 words. And the reason why it should be minimum is that you shouldn't make an article of, let's say, 500 characters, because then it's better to do it as a post. But minimum 300 words up to 700, 800. And the reason why we also have the maximum is people don't tend to read a lot of large posts or articles on LinkedIn. The good thing is, if you write a good article and you use good keywords, Google actually index your article. So therefore, it could be a really cool thing to also start focusing on posting articles. I hope that answered the question, Rina. Other than that, just elaborate on it. Mohammed is asking here, is Sales Navigator only for certain regions or premium subscriptions? I cannot find it in the home screen. I'll show it for you, Mohammed. I think it should be available worldwide, but let me try to show you where you should be able to access it. When you're on the start screen on LinkedIn, if you click on this part over here on these dots here where you say work. Then you can see there's talent solutions, sales solutions. If you click on sales solution, this is Sales Navigator, where you get into this part. But I can also actually help you just by putting this in the chat. So if you click on the link in the chat, you should be able to access it directly. So I hope that answered the question, Mohammed. All right, let's go back to let's see here, Pandorang. Is it any analysis on which day of the week gets maximum eyeballs? Very good question too. There's no official numbers from LinkedIn, so we need to test this ourselves. Eva and I have actually found out that it seems like normal days, typically actually Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday morning, meaning let's say 7 to 10 would be the best times to actually post. Friday is getting less good over time, at least here in the pandemic period of time. But Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday between 7 and 10 seems to be a sweet spot. When we post articles, like I just showed you a moment ago, it seems like it's more ideal to post in between 6 and 9 in the evening, because it seems like when we have long form posts, when there are more words, it seems like people have better times to read them there. So in general, post in the morning, Pandorang, also because then you have a better chance of having your colleagues to help by liking the post. If it's long form like articles, you should probably post in the evening. Sunday evening can actually also be pretty good, is our experience. But I will just wrap up this answer by saying, Pandorang, test it yourself and find out what works for you. But of course, don't post in the middle of the night or late Friday night, because fewer people on LinkedIn there. So morning days are best normally. Joyce is asking a little bit of the same question. How about sharing posts? This is not an effective way of attracting the audience. If you want to share a message that you see on the company page or from a colleague, just click on like. The best way for you to attract an audience is by making your own posts. So, and again, I know it takes longer time, but let's say that you see a really cool post on the company page. Initially, click like on it to support it, the distribution on it, and then let's say a week or two or a month later, make your own version of it. Maybe change the images a little bit, change the text, but then you publish your own original content. That would be the absolute best thing to do, Joyce. Yeah. Magnus, I hope you were listening to the part about best time of the week. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday in the morning is probably the best. Monday can be a little bit stressed, but in general, early morning, 7 to 10 in the morning would be the best. Padham is asking, is the reach of a post public or only limited to private followers? Unless you've set, let me just show you this one. If you are here on LinkedIn and you start to write a post, then normally when you start to post something, unless you change who should see it, then anyone can see, sorry, this is the comment part, unless you change the setup here, anyone can see the post. So it was actually this button I was looking for. So you can choose to say it's only my connection who should see this. Then you should change it to this. But of course, if we want to use this, let me just sign on the screen here so you can actually see it. I just saw that. Let me just show you again. So here, I start a new post. If I want to let everyone see it, just let it be here at the default. If you only want to share it with your connections, you can click here to do this, or you can share it in a specific group that you're a member of. But normally, if you want to use it for social selling, of course, we need to spread it out to a large audience as possible. Yeah. Let me see here. Yeah, Mohammed, you're writing here. Let me see here. you should go in, just like if you're doing any kind of subscription for an app on your phone, you need to go into the account part on your iPhone to change it there if you want to do this. Normally, I would always recommend that you sign up for premium directly with LinkedIn, not via, for instance, the iTunes store. Yeah, let's see, more questions are coming here. Hashtags. Ashish here is asking, what about a hashtag? Using more hashtag would be great, helpful. You should, to be very precise on this one, I'll just go here. When we are writing the text, again, 1,300 characters, and that this one includes links, text, hashtags, tagging, everything. Normally, I would recommend that you put in 3 hashtags in the end of the text. Normally, I would not recommend you use it as part of the text because it can sometimes disturb the readability of it. You should, this is LinkedIn's recommendation, you should use 3 and only 3. Sometimes I see people who maybe they think it's a bit like Instagram where they start to put 10 or 20 hashtags on. If you put in 10 or 20 hashtags, this is going to be considered being spammy on hashtag from a LinkedIn point of view, and this would actually reduce the distribution of your post. So the reason actually we were using hashtag is not to get a broad distribution. We do this to label, to put a metadata label on the post that you do. So by doing that, people who search for hashtags and actually follow hashtags, you can help them by putting these things in. But as I said, 3 hashtags, use industry terms within your business areas, so you use them. From my point of view, if I post something about social selling, of course it would be hashtag social selling, hashtag sales process, hashtag buying journey. That would be industry terms or generic terms. So use the 3 hashtags. I will also show you actually how you can search for hashtags. Normally, we would do it via the search field, but apparently from a couple of months, there's been an issue on that one. So what we can do is actually use a search URL that I will provide you with. For instance, here, I'm searching for the hashtag called growth. And in this case, you can see 158,000 is actually following the hashtag growth. And if I want to follow it, I search for it and I click on follow. So now I would start to see some posts including the hashtag growth in my feed. The way you can search for it is actually if you in the chat you can see a URL from me now. If you click on this one and you save it, bookmark it, the way you search for it as is basically just change the last word where it says growth right now, change it for whatever other hashtag you want to search for, and you should not include the hashtag sign. You should just put in the word. Yeah. Charlotte here, how much can you talk about the company products on your personal account and also the company page when doing posts? Sometimes, or is it big no? The issue, Charlotte, is if you only talk about it, it's a big no, because then it's just going to be a product page. And seriously, I cannot find a successful company page where when they talk about their products, they're going to have a lot of shows and impressions. So if you, on the other hand, have, let's say that you post once a week or twice a week, maybe once a month you can do a product post, but you need to make sure that when people visit your company page, and this is also to do with if we have a great, it would be great if we increase the number of followers on our company page, and if we put in too many product pages, you're not going to increase your number of followers. Eva and I, just to use this as an example, when we started 7 years ago, we had 0 followers. Today we have 7,824 followers. You will never see one single product from us because we're only sharing knowledge and information, tips and tricks, guides, videos, webinar replays and stuff like that. And every time we post these, we get new followers. So my point would be saying you need to post a lot of inspiration and guides, tips, tricks, stuff like that, industry perspectives. Let your CEO talk about different kind of topics. And then once in a while we can do it. But normally I would use my website to do this kind of things. I hope that answered the question. Otherwise, feel free to ask again, Charlotte. Thomas is asking here, LinkedIn counts the scrolling views. Is it possible to know the real views of a post? Stop or click on a post. No, sorry, you can't do that, Thomas. And it's a good point. Actually, when we go out here in the feed, when I'm doing this, when I'm scrolling like this, everything like this is actually counting like an impression here. As long as it's when I scroll here, there's 1,000 milliseconds or half of the post, it will actually count as an impression. On mobile, it's even 300 milliseconds. So we don't need to scroll very fast before it actually counts as an impression. So my point is also here, Thomas, don't focus too much on the impression, because impressions are not the important part. The important part is likes and comments. You should focus on that, because that's an interaction. That I need to click as a human before it actually counts. I need to comment on the thing. Sharing is, of course, also an interaction in that aspect, even though it doesn't work. So don't focus too much on views, because they're very, very light in that aspect. Focus on likes and comments on this one. If we were going to make like a winner plate for it, in my point of view, comments wins gold, likes get silver, and bronze is when we're looking at the views and impression. It's really not important in that aspect. Yeah, let's see for more question here. Ericsson, I have connections in my account that complain that LinkedIn has become the flea market. What are your thoughts on that? Very, very, very interesting question. I hear this actually a lot, Ericsson. And the issue is, of course, when I go to my feed here, let me just show you this one. If people are thinking that the feed is not worth looking into, the issue initially is that you've connected with the wrong people. When I see a lot of spam here, I immediately react to it. If I see something where I don't want to see this kind, initially the person will simply get one chance from me. If the person is a person I would like to be connected with, but I don't want to see this person's post, I click on the three dots and then I click unfollow. I'm still connected with this person, but I unfollow this person so that I don't see it. And if it's a person who's really spammy, I just simply disconnect with the person. I go to the person's profile and I click on more and remove connection. So the first thing, Ericsson, is yes, maybe there's something about it, but it's because there's too many salespeople who are spammy. There's too many people with Facebook-like posts. You need to increase the quality on two levels. You can adjust when actually checking up on the network you have yourself, so you increase the quality in that. And most important, make sure that you don't contribute to this messy feed, that you actually post relevant information. If you don't have something interesting to tell, for instance, if you want to post once a week, don't post. Wait till next week. Always be relevant when you post on LinkedIn. I hope that answered the question, Ericsson. Otherwise, again, answer a new question. Prabhat here is asking, is there an ideal number of connection you should have? No, not specifically. However, I would say you should have minimum 500 connections before the network effect starts to have to work on LinkedIn. But again, let's say, I don't know how many connections you have, Prabhat, but let's say that you have 200. You should not panic and start to find 300 immediately. Take your time, go for quality. If you have 5,000 connections and you've been a little bit, you can see, friendly when receiving invitations, consider to actually clean a little bit up in your network and disconnect with irrelevant persons. So 500 or more, but go for quality. That would be my recommendation. Yeah. One from Irina. Let me just find the question. Maybe it's this one. If I have one main business page for the headquarters and do resharing for the post to other pages of my company affiliates, is this all right in this case? To be honest, no, resharing doesn't work. Don't reshare, just click on like. If you have, let me see here, other pages should not reshare. Other pages should make their own version of this one. So let's say that and this is just in my mind, let's say there's Granuldisk headquarter and then there's Granuldisk UK. Instead of resharing the headquarter on UK company page, you should make your own post on the company page. Resharing is a really, really bad idea on LinkedIn. Always make original posts. And then there was a question from Vinod. Let me see if there. Should we post related to our products and services only? Not necessary, but you could say on a company page, you should probably make sure that it's related to this one. But you can also discuss environmental issues. Of course, all this about the environment and stuff like that. Sustainability is a really hot topic. Of course, you can post this on the company page too without mentioning any products or services. So I think you should, a good way of working with this one, this is actually some of the things that we discussed with Johan a couple of years ago and also presented for some of you at the headquarters, talking about communication lighthouses, that you make sure that you define, we want to talk about this, we want to talk about it's a great place to work, career development, we want to talk about environment, sustainability, we want to talk about how we develop products. Now Matthias mentioned something about Internet of Things, stuff like that. We want to talk about how things are developing. So make sure that you have a broad way of talking thing. The issue is many companies is becoming too much product oriented. You need to have a more broad approach to what you're talking about when it comes to your company. I hope that answered the question, Vinod. Otherwise, again, feel free to ask a new question. Let me see if I think we are there. There's still room for more questions if there's more you would like to ask me about. If you don't have more questions, then a final thing I would like to offer you, and I have agreed with Matthias and Johan, and that is, if you suddenly have a question, not tomorrow because it's weekend here, but let's say next week or in 2 months from now, feel free to contact me. I would be happy to answer your questions. Of course, you can always connect with me. You're also very welcome to call me. Of course, if you call from other time zone, have that in mind. But I would be very happy to discuss things if you have questions. Often it's actually much easier to actually take the dialogue on mobile phones. So call me if you like. There's no issue. I will be happy to help, and you're not going to get an invoice or anything for it. This is part of the deal with Johan. All right, I can see here Johan is writing, if anyone who would like to have the presentation, send a request to marketing@granuldisk.com. Then in all the slides you've seen, you will be provided with these things. Okay, I think we're about to finish 23 minutes over time, which is due to a lot of good questions. Really, really cool that you asked these questions. I'm really happy to see that you engage in this part. I would wrap up just by saying, as I said, feel free to contact me. Other than that, I would just wish you really good luck with using the social selling methods, both on your personal profile and on your company page. If you do something and you do it on a regular basis, you will be successful using the social selling method in your business. So have a nice day, have a nice weekend, and also have a nice summer. So see you soon, maybe on LinkedIn. Take care. Bye.